Hey there, everybody. It's RevKev here. I just wanted to take a little bit of time today on my channel to let's talk some Star Wars, shall we? It's gonna be a regular part of my channel here, just geeking out, talking Star Wars. Uh, I'm a Star Wars guy. I have always been a Star Wars guy ever since my dad brought me in 1977 to go see Star Wars in the Regent Theatre in downtown Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. We sat right in the balcony of the theater. Been in love with Star Wars ever since. Now, I have lots of conversations with people about Star Wars all the time. And what's fascinating is how this same topic keeps coming up all the time. The reality is, I've kind of lost my love for Star Wars. I keep hoping, I keep hanging on to it, I keep trying to find ways to keep making Star Wars fun again, but it's hard. It's hard for me. And the conversation I keep having all the time is the comparison between the hatred that people had of the prequel trilogy and that the hatred that people have now of the new sequel trilogy. So I want to contrast the two. Because see, in my case, even though I complained a lot about the prequel trilogy, but here's the thing. I didn't dislike it. I didn't dislike the prequel trilogy. I was disappointed with the prequel trilogy. Again, there's a big difference. With the prequel trilogy, I was disappointed. With the sequel trilogy, I was hopeful. I was hopeful with The Force Awakens, but now I fall under the category of I dislike it. And so what I want to do is I want to break down the difference between being disappointed and disliking. And you'll see it's hugely different, right? So here's the key things. Let's go back to, what was it, 1999. Prequel trilogy is coming out. So excited. Made the mistake of telling my fiance at the time that I'm so excited, the most amazing thing is coming up. She thought I was talking about our wedding that we had in February of 1999. I was actually talking about Star Wars, which came out in May of 1999. Guys, if you're engaged, here's a little tip for you. Don't do that. Okay, learn from my example. Okay. Anyways, 1999, a lot of anticipation had been built up over this new prequel trilogy. A lot of excitement. We had thought Star Wars was done. The whole concept and idea of any more Star Wars movies was so incredibly foreign to us. So we have devoured anything Star Wars for a long time since Return of the Jedi had come out in 1983. Video games, books, comic books, whatever we could get our grubby little hands on, we consumed it, we devoured it because Star Wars was done. We never dreamed in a million years there'd be more Star Wars movies. And lo and behold, Phantom Menace comes out. Remember those interviews with George Lucas that started coming out about a week before the movie released in May 1999? Where he's like, everyone, lower your expectations. Everyone, lower your expectations. And we didn't. We lost our minds because it didn't meet the expectation. Now, in my case, it didn't mean I disliked it. It meant I was disappointed with it. And here's some of the reasons why I was disappointed with the prequel trilogy. Well, it didn't build on, it didn't, how can I say this? It didn't live up to what I had built up in my mind. Like when I was thinking about the height of the Jedi Order, I'm thinking, man, we're going to see Jedi defending the galaxy and doing all this amazing stuff, which we got glimpses of, but we didn't fully get it, fully realized in the prequel trilogy. One of the key things that I was really excited about was the whole relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. I thought they did a good job with it. But in my mind, I was expecting something great. I was expecting things like, seeing Anakin Skywalker turn to Darth Vader. And when he becomes that armored Darth Vader, well, he's not supposed to be like some weak Frankenstein. He should have been the most powerful he had ever been because he fully gave in and embraced the dark side. Now he had this equipment to help with him as well. In my head, I had these battles of Darth Vader, fully armored, wiping out the Jedi Order, right? That's just what I built in my head, right? You know, when in A New Hope, when Darth Vader says to Obi-Wan Kenobi, we meet again at last, right? It was picturing like the standoff that they had. Now, we had a great battle in episode 3, but I was expecting another battle, kind of this other idea. So a lot of expectations going into it, which led me to be disappointed, but still liked it, still bought all the toys, still saw it multiple times. I even have Jar Jar Bink t-shirts at home, okay? Still liked it. And so what I want to do is break down a little bit some of this, how this plays out, right? And the difference between disappointed and dislike. I dislike the current direction of Lucasfilm and Disney Star Wars. I dislike what they're doing with the story. I have very little interest in the continuing story, the continuing saga, the additional movies that they're all in talking about. I've lost interest because I dislike what I see happening story-wise. So here's a couple comparisons on how this plays out, and hopefully this helps those of you who I speak to about this stuff all the time understand a little bit of what's going on in my crazy head when I talk about this stuff. Okay, difference between being disappointed and dislike. Disappointed with the prequel trilogy, but it still fit with the main story. Episode 1 to episode 6 fits. It's a complete story in of itself. It's the rise, the fall, and the redemption of Anakin Skywalker. It fits. Were there some things I wish they would have done a little differently? Of course. We all have an imagination. All of us who love Star Wars are very imaginative type people. We all think about this stuff. So yes, there's stuff I'm disappointed with, but it fits. I can be disappointed, but it still fits. It still all kind of fits together in one main story. The reason I dislike 7, 8, 9, now I liked 7 when it came out because I was incredibly hopeful that they were going to get the story part right. Episode 8 ruined that, absolutely ruined that, because now the story doesn't fit together. They broke the story. If they were doing a standalone trilogy that had nothing to do with the Skywalker saga, if you wouldn't have called it episode 7, if you would have just called it episode 1 of a new story, it would have been great. But you called it episode 7, so it's got to be part 7, 8, and 9 of a larger story. That is basic story writing. And they broke it. It doesn't fit. What they did with Han Solo didn't fit with the character of Han Solo. What you did with Luke Skywalker didn't fit with the character of Luke Skywalker. It just doesn't clearly bring a story together. Now, unless they somehow pull a rabbit out of their hat, for episode 9 and somehow make episode 8 and 7 tie into 1 to 6, good luck. I'm still hopeful, but that's one of the key differences between being disappointed and dislike. I can be disappointed that they didn't do things I liked, but at least they stuck with the story. It all fit. Another thing about that too, another difference between dislike and disappointed is when you introduce new characters. When we think of the characters who were introduced in the prequel trilogy, right? I'm talking Padme Amidala. I'm talking Qui-Gon Jinn. I'm even talking Jar Jar Binks, okay? Emperor Palpatine, well, Senator Palpatine. Mind you, he wasn't fully new, but you know what I mean, right? And all the different characters that were introduced. Every single character introduced added to the existing characters of Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Characters like Qui-Gon Jinn. Amazing character, man. Standalone Qui-Gon Jinn movie. I'd see that, okay? He was fascinating. This Jedi Master, we've never seen this level of Jedi Master before. And what he did is he added to existing characters. He added to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He added to Yoda. He added to even the finding Anakin Skywalker and beginning that journey, his journey to the dark side, right? Padme Amidala. Phenomenal character, very, very strong character who added to the story of Anakin Skywalker, who added to the story of Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, right? Even Jar Jar Binks didn't take away from the existing characters. Sure, were we disappointed with him back in 1999? Did we kind of not get it? We didn't. We didn't get it. But you know what? Fast forward a few years later when I had some kids, my daughter loved Jar Jar Binks. So you know what? George knew what he was doing. It wasn't a character for me. It was a character for my kids. And I totally respect that, even though it didn't connect with me. Now the prequel trilogy, this is where I think they got it wrong. The new characters aren't adding to the existing characters. The new characters are there to try to get us to forget about the existing characters. Kylo Ren. The concept of Kylo Ren isn't new. We've read about all this stuff in the expanded universe, kind of one of the children of the Skywalkers, of Leia or Luke turning to the dark side, right? Phenomenal potential there, which add to the character of Luke, that added to the character of Leia, that had to bring out a new level of heroism in them. Kylo Ren, it was like, no, I want you to forget about Darth Vader. I want you to forget about Luke. I want you to forget about Leia. I'm the new baddie of baddies, right? Even when they introduced Snoke, again, it was like, ooh, how is this going to complement the Emperor? Was he the one who trained the Emperor? All of these fan theories that we've been told stink. Yeah. The theories that we had and everything that we were going forward, we thought it was going to add to it. It didn't add anything to it. The characters didn't add to the main characters, didn't add to the mythology, to the rise, fall, and redemption of Anakin Skywalker. It feels like it's forced. It feels like it's stuck on, and it actually feels like it's trying to get us to forget, to take away from these established characters. So that, again, different. I can be disappointed in characters, and I can dislike characters. And that's where I land in prequel versus sequel. Another good thing is when it comes to, again, to the story, right? This is, again, when I shared a little bit about this already. The reason I dislike the stories that they're coming up with is because they take away. It's not adding. Now, I have this conversation all the time with people when it comes to Rogue One. Rogue One seems to be the movie that most Star Wars fans that I speak to, they love, and they say it's the one movie that Disney got right. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, but I think they got it wrong, because I believe the story that they introduced in Rogue One actually took away from the character of Luke Skywalker. You see, George Lucas was very specific when he had Luke in the trench with R2-D2 and his X-Wing fighter, trying to find an exhaust port, right? Something that's only 2 meters wide, and at the Mach 127 had to get a proton torpedo down that shaft so it would go into the reactor core and blow it up, right? Rogue One took away from that miracle. It made it a man-made weakness, that anybody could do it. And George, in his intentionality, was trying to introduce the concept of the Force. It's not anyone could do this. Only a Jedi Knight could do this, but there aren't any more Jedi Knight. But Luke is the new hope. He's the new hope of this generation, the next generation of Jedi. Making it man-made was pointless. It took away from the miracle of what Luke was able to do through the Force. Think of your car, okay? This is basic science 101. If you take a firecracker, you know, one of those little things, or cherry cracker, you know, you light it, explode. You take one of those and light it and stick it in your gas tank, you have no more car. Basic science. The exhaust port's exact same thing. You take a proton torpedo, get it down in there, you're in the reactor, it's gonna blow. The small little explosion in this thing that's powering the Death Star is gonna blow up. This isn't a man-made trap. They took away from the character of Luke. That's why I hate Rogue One. That's probably the movie I disliked the most. The new characters didn't add to the story. They all died, good and bad. It didn't fill in the blanks of anything. It just took away from existing characters, took away from existing mythology. And it was a cash grab for me, my opinion, right? So this is what happens. Like the death of Han Solo didn't add to the story of Kylo Ren. When Qui-Gon Jinn died, it added to the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi. When Obi-Wan Kenobi died, it added to the character of Luke Skywalker. Han Solo's death didn't add anything to the story of Kylo Ren. It didn't add anything to Rey. It didn't add anything to Finn. It just was, let's just kill him for killing him's sake, because you got to have the mentor die at the first movie of every trilogy. Same as Luke's death. It didn't add to anything. It was just, let's shock everyone and let's surprise everyone, right? Vader's death added to the character of Luke Skywalker and just kind of redeemed him. So these are just a few of the examples, and I'm going to talk more about this stuff because I think this is something I really want to unpack even more. The big difference for me is being disappointed with the prequels, still enjoyed it, still spent a lot of money on it, still bought the t-shirt, still bought all the toys, still bought all the video games, and was still a fan for another 20 years until the sale happened and we got the prequel trilogy. Was excited. My expectations were much lower when The Force Awakens came out. Loved it. Saw it 12 times in the movie theater in the first month it was in the theater. Loved it. Very hopeful. Quickly moved to dislike. Don't really buy the toys of the new stuff. I'll buy toys of the existing characters. Not into the new stuff. I just keep defaulting back to original trilogy and prequel stuff because It's not that I'm disappointed with it. I just don't like it. I dislike it. So anyway, that's my Star Wars talk for today. I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. You know, am I off base? Am I crazy? Would love to hear your comments. And if you enjoy this type of content, I talk about Star Wars stuff, geeky stuff, and leadership. Any kind of way that I can help lift you in your life and your leadership, I'm always love to be able to do that. So if you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, that would be awesome. Would hugely appreciate it and love your comments. Let's keep the conversation going. Till next time, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.